and he points me to the queue, which is the customs queue, and it actually goes back and forwards, snakes backwards and forwards upon itself, and it's at least a 2 hour
Yeah.
queue. And here we have this psychotic girl.
Welcome to Wild and Finally Fucking Free, hosted by me, soul-fueled storyteller Kylie Fatchett. We dive into the truth-talking, unedited stories of metamorphosis, growth, and evolution. I deeply believe that sharing our stories holds transformative magic. Join us to listen to future humans, change agents, extraordinary ordinary people, healers and paradigm shifters as we honour the power of our messy, magical stories. Let's get wild and finally fucking free together. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another podcast. I have Sarah Martin with me today. Hello, Sarah. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well, thank you.
I'm so excited for this conversation because we were connected by the beautiful Maggie, who her episode, where did that come from? Came out about a month and a half ago, and we were talking about her lived experience with DID, dissociative identity disorder. That's a mouthful. And she connected me to you. So welcome, because I am really looking forward to having another guest talking about mental health and the stigmas around it and to reset the narrative. So thank you for coming.
I love that. I love it. I love to reset the narrative.
Yes. Amen. Amen. Now, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you have come to this work in the world through your own experience?
So I'm a mum of three. I've got 2 cats and a dog, and I work as a perioperative nurse, so it's theatre nurse, and I'm also a carer peer worker. Just started that, which is great, and that means being an advocate in committee meetings and stuff for those with mental health. So that if I'm all for being an advocate and breaking the barriers and the silence and stigma of mental health, because in 2015, our daughter suffered a psychosis while travelling overseas alone.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize she was alone.
Brought me to the circle of being a mental health advocate and breaking that bloody silence and stigma as much as I can. Yeah.
I cannot, as a mum of 2 daughters, automatically when you say traveling alone overseas and going into psychosis, I put myself in your shoes and I'm just like,
It was terrifying. It really was. It was certainly something that we never thought that would happen. And mental health, you sort of go, oh, that's not in my family. We don't have anyone with mental health. And we never thought that it would be in ours. But you know what? Life throws you curveballs, and you either go with it or you don't. And we've gone with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Whereabouts was your daughter Alice when so she's overseas, but how did you even find out she was in psychosis? Was she identified?
So we'd had some sort of a bit of strange messages from her from about a week or 2 before. But you know that carpet, we lifted it up and we swept it under there, and we kept on, and we sort of made a few excuses of this, oh, she's 21, she's traveling, she's fine. But I was at a conference, actually, a nursing conference, and it was called Wellness for Life. And I get a message from a stranger. I look at it, and of course I delete. I go, scammer. And, you move on.
Of course.
And then about an hour later, I get another message, and it's from the same guy, but it's on my messenger request. And my heart starts beating, and I just, and these dots in my head from the week before connected, and I thought, this guy knows Alice. I opened the message and it says, I'm a friend of Alice's. I'm worried about her. And of course, I then, with shaky hands, opened this message in this conference, and then I realised after a couple of minutes of exchanging messages that I need to go outside. So I whispered to my nurse colleague, and off I go outside. And he thinks that Alice is having some sort of mental health crisis. And that's that's when the life, my life, our life as we know it, changed.
Wow.
So
Far
that's
out.
that. But then, do I believe this guy?
Yeah.
Do I?
That's where my,
It is
yes.
a scam. Like my
Yeah,
husband's playing golf, I can't contact him.
of course.
So I'm like, I'm falling apart, having a stress, just stressing. And then I realised that my son in Melbourne, who's doing his last year of medicine,
Mhm.
is at home. But of course, it's Saturday morning at 10 a.m. He's been out, for a big night out.
He's
Doesn't
not gonna be
answer my
awake for
phone.
hours.
That's it. Doesn't answer my phone. And
Yeah.
then I ring. I think if I ring again, he'll
Mhm,
answer it,
mhm,
and
mhm.
he does. So we then are able to have a great conversation, and then we have more conversations with this guy. He's called to Sane. And 24 hours later, we leave my husband with my younger son at home. He and I are on a plane bound for Istanbul, and
Far
to
out.
find our beautiful girl and see what the story is.
So what's going through your head when you're on, I know these sound like these, I'm asking questions like stupid reporters do on TV where you're like, "Oh, of course there's stress," but like what internally is going on when you're on that plane? Are you still hoping
I'm
that
hope
whatever's
oh,
at
yeah,
the end is just magically
yeah.
not
I
really?
So Jesse, um, we call him our hippie vegan doctor. He's come with a little
I
backpack,
love him
like
already.
he's gorgeous. He comes with the tiniest of backpack with about 3 items in it.
Yes.
I've gone with a bag because I'm thinking that, well, okay, if she's not all right, I'm not going to come all this way and then go home in 2 days.
No.
My mum and dad have graciously paid for our plane tickets,
Mhm.
or else two of us would no way have been able to afford to do this.
Yeah.
Um, so I've got this bag packed, thinking, great, we'll spend a few extra days in Istanbul,
Uh-huh.
and then we might have to come home. And I'm thinking the best thing is I arrive and she goes, "Oh, Mum, I'm really glad that you're here. I'm
Yes.
feeling okay now, but you know." And
Something, yeah.
Jess goes home, and I go home, and everything's hunky dory. No, we arrive at the airport, and she's surrounded in a group of these beautiful Syrian refugees that have clearly saved her life.
Mm.
Um, they they look exhausted. They've surrounded her, walking her to us, and we we are and will be forever grateful to these people. We work out very quickly that we need to get home, and so within 3 days. So we get there on the Monday. On the
Yeah.
Wednesday, we have her in a plane and get home. And then we deal with the hospital system, getting her into the PEC unit, which is the psychiatric emergency care unit, and then home to my care on a concoction of drugs to keep her well. And there's nothing for us as parents. We don't know what to do. And I ask people, this is nearly 10 years ago. So
Mm.
it there were places around. Black Dog Institute, Sane were around then, but I was too busy keeping Alice afloat
Yeah.
to I had to forget about myself. I had to forget about my husband. I had to forget about the other kids. Jess has gone back to Melbourne to continue his studies.
Yeah.
And the 13-year-old, who's amazing, he's just going to school. And we decided very early on as a nurse that we wouldn't have secrets in the house, that we would, to a certain extent, share what was going on. So Harry
Mhm.
knows that Alice is unwell, but not not to the
The
extent that
depth.
she is unwell.
Yeah.
So what had happened was that she'd had a drug-induced psychosis in Istanbul. She'd taken a half a tablet of this drug called Captagon, which was the newest drug of choice for the Syrian and ISIS fighters to take. And she was described as it being like a Red Bull drink, an energy drink that would make her feel, a bit of caffeine
Yeah, a
and
bit of, yeah. Mhm.
and what we've done is, as a family, is that we've we've had to move on from that. Do we condone drugs? Absolutely not. But you can't deal in shoulda, woulda, couldas. You have to deal with hindsight, insight, and foresight. So that's what we do. We talked about it when Alice was well enough, which was months later. And I said to her, I can't do this again if this happens again. And she said, Mum, I have no interest in doing this ever again. And it wasn't until 2 years later, when she had a second psychosis, that she was diagnosed with bipolar affective disorder, which then came back to being the cause of the first psychosis. The drug was the catalyst.
Yeah, it's like the
switch
catalyst.
that turned. And an interesting thing for all your listeners out there is that our psychiatrist described it really well. She said, if you've got a group of 20, whether it doesn't matter whether you're adults or young people, you've got a group of 20 and you all take the same drug. Doesn't matter what it is, you all take the same drug. 19 of you will be fine. One will have an adverse reaction. And whether that's feeling a bit out of it, whether that's being out of it for a day or two, or whether it's a full-blown psychotic episode like Alice had, is another thing. So our story is certainly a positive message for some and a warning to others. And we need to have open discussions to our children and with our children. And it needs to be early. No, there's no pussyfooting about mental health. They're just not. There is not. Yeah.
There's so many questions I want to ask. I want to take you back to seeing Alice in the airport. And I'm just imagining, I'm just putting myself in your shoes. Like, I just can't imagine.
We've seen her, and she comes towards us, and she's got her head wrapped in a scarf. And then there's hair there are tufts of hair coming out of the scarf. And she has a dress on that's inside out. And on top of the dress is a skirt. And that's our first look. So I immediately, when these beautiful Syrians and Sane, the man that's run us, gets to us, I immediately embrace her.
Yeah.
And Jessie embraces the other three that have got our girl to us.
Yes.
And Jessie's crying, I'm crying, the Syrians are crying, and Alice is hearing voices. She's not with us. She's not just hearing one voice, she's hearing hundreds of voices.
Yeah.
And how she heard our voice is an amazing thing. And I don't know why or how. And I will probably talk about luck today. And definitely we need to take the luck out of mental health. But we were certainly blessed from the moment Hussein called us to the moment we got her home and to treatment. We feel so blessed.
Yeah. I imagine, because of my question was about the airport, like, did you know even visually that you weren't going to have this magical happy ending of like, oh, it's nothing. She just had a, funny night or whatever. So you see her and you realize that she doesn't look or appear to be as you would expect her to be in her natural state. What's it like to navigate the plane travel if she's so unwell? Because having worked in mental health recovery and being around people in psychosis, I imagine that would have been tricky. Hey gorgeous, we interrupt this gold for a delicious invitation. If your whole body has been whispering more lately, more voice, more truth, more satisfaction, more clients of the soulmate variety, more cash, more you, then this invitation is for you. Potent, My sister mind is officially open. This is my high touch, holy fuck, I'm ready sister mind for rebels in good girl clothing who are done outsourcing their power and diluting their magic to fit into someone else's business formula. If you have been craving a space where your strategy, your voice, and your energy all get to be offered, honored, refined, and amplified, this is it. Inside of Potent, you'll get my eyes on your business every single week, copy mentoring, and that is for brand copy and content storytelling that turns your truth into client catnip, energetic recalibration that helps you unhook old learned limitation patterns, keeping you quiet, not being seen, not being heard, real-time, high-touch, one-on-one coaching that actually sees the bigness of your vision, and the kind of sisterhood that does not flinch when you show up in your full, messy, brilliant, phoenix rising from the ashes glory. This isn't surface level support. It's deep, potent, paradigm shifting work that changes who you are as a woman in business and a woman in life. We start in August. Early open access is open right now. For the month of June 2025, inside of this early access open doors period, you will receive juicy bonuses, extended payment plans, and access immediately to my entire library of storytelling gold. You'll find all the juicy details at kyliepatchett.com/potent. And we fill spaces, and there's only 10 of them, and more than likely only 5 by the time you listen to this, because by that time I will have offered them to the existing cohort, the beautiful original OG circle. We do actually take applications on a first come, first served basis. So come and apply, and let's get back to the magic of the episode.
So amazing, Jessie. When we got to the airport, he had the headphones on that he'd been listening to, and he had some music on. He immediately gave them to Alice and said, "Put these on, listen to this. If you want to change the song, you tap the side of your headphone and it'll skip. It'll skip a beat. It'll skip a track. And if you don't like that, skip it again." And Alice then said about a week later that when he said this, when the voices became overwhelming, which they were all the time,
Yes.
that she would skip the track and it would sometimes flick her thoughts to a different thought, or the voices would recede.
Yes.
And that was one of the best things and that happened like 5 minutes into our stay. So we have to get her through Istanbul Airport, Ataturk Airport, which is one of the busiest airports in the world. And there'd been a terrorist attack, or I think a couple of days before we arrived. So the queues, the lines to everywhere are absolutely horrific. And we have to get her. We have to get her into the airport.
This is why I'm asking, because
this is a couple of hours wait. And in the book, I actually write about I am oblivious to all of this. I'm standing with Alice. Alice and I held hands the whole time. We know that if we can't let her walk away because she just is. She's not here. She's here, but she's not here.
Yeah.
So that was one of the best things of having Jez, was because I could go to the toilet by myself. He could go to the toilet by himself. We could get food. We could do this because we had. But the queues are horrific, and Jessie's seen this, and I'm seriously oblivious.
Yeah.
And he looks at me and he goes, "Mum, we can't go in that queue." And I go, "What queue?" And he points me to the queue, which is the customs queue, and it actually goes back and forwards, snakes backwards and forwards. upon itself, and it's at least a 2 hour
Oh, yes.
queue. And here we have this psychotic girl that we're we're not mental health trained. And I said, now I did one lecture in my training 35 years ago,
Mhm,
and I have no idea what to do.
mhm,
Jesse had read a little bit about it on the plane, which is
mhm.
great. He'd done a mental health chat
Oh,
like a month before, so we were really blessed, like with a
mhm.
lot of things. And anyhow, so we can't go in that queue. And he goes, well, we've got to go in that queue. And I look, and it's the business class queue, and I go, here's my hippie vegan doctor with his long hair, his backpack on his back that he's got his worldly possessions in. And here am I, with my hair back. Alice, I've done her hair. She's got her headphones on. She's very blank.
Mhm.
And I go, "Oh, we can't do that." And he goes, Mum, we cannot go in that line. And my heart is, I'm now, I'm not outwardly upset, but inwardly, my heart is pounding. And I'm like, if we can't get her through, that we're going to cause an international incident, because there's no way she will stay
No,
in that queue for 2 hours.
no.
And it's also a claustrophobic queue, because we all know what those
Yeah.
those
Ugh,
airline
yeah,
lines are like.
awful.
And so he says, come on. And I go, okay. And we go across, and Jessie speaks to the lady at the business first class check-in,
Yeah,
and not check-in, it is the customs queue.
yeah,
And she looks at us, and he says, this is my mum. That's my sister. She's unwell.
yeah.
We cannot go through the other line. She looks at us, and she puts a finger up, and she brings another lady, and the other lady, Jessie, says the same thing. And I'm getting a little bit teary now. I didn't think I would. This happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
The lady looks at us, and she looks at Jessie, she looks at Alice, and she waves us through. If we hadn't got through that, we would not have. And it is the kindness of strangers.
Mm,
And like, I surprise myself when I get emotional, and because it did happen that long ago, but sometimes people's kindness, I wish I could find her. I wish I could say how
mm.
amazing she was to get us through, because I that
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 made all the
meant
difference.
that that meant the difference.
Mhm,
Um, and then another thing, Jessie had suggested was that we buy into a lounge
mhm.
in Ataturk Airport.
Yeah.
And I did. I bought it the day before, and we walked in past that customs, and there are just thousands of people there. And of course, Alice, I can't
You
say
don't
it
want
was
somebody,
best
yeah.
money spent that
Mhm.
getting into that lounge. So then we've got the plane ride where Alice sits in between us. And I'm the shortest at 5'11". Alice is 6 foot, and Jessie's 6'2". So we're
Oh,
all like,
no.
we put the 6 foot one in between us. So,
Yeah.
and she just sits there with her headphones. When dinner arrives, um, I have to open the foil, hand her everything, because I think everything has meaning to her in her mind. Like, she's psychotic. She hadn't slept for days, and by the time we got on the plane, she'd had a bit of more sleep than she'd had.
Mhm.
So when we first arrived, she couldn't utter or say words that I understood or hear, because they were so quiet. But she could say a few words, but they'd be whispering, and
Yes.
we'd have to listen very carefully.
Mm.
And so we'd walk around the plane, but I'd walk with her, or Jessie'd walk with her. When she went
Mhm.
to the bathroom, I'd walk with her and wait for
Yeah.
her, and things like that. But yeah, so then we get home, and we have a stop in Singapore. I can't wait to get back on that plane and back up
Oh,
and at
I just imagine
Mexico.
being like coming onto the tarmac in Australia
Yeah.
the enormous sense of relief you must have had of
Well,
like, okay.
I'm so grateful that now Alice can speak. She's sort of not understanding why she's home and why she had to come home because her brain tells her all she needs is yoga.
Oh,
And
okay. All right.
getting her to hospital is, we just say, you have to go to hospital. We have to deal with this.
Mhm.
And it's, it's, she is one of the most amazing, and I call her, she is my hero,
Yeah.
and she will forever be my hero. And she says, no, Mum, I'm not. Look what I've put you through. No, no, you are amazing. And,
Mm.
at the end when, we talk a bit more, I'll let you know how amazing she is. But, I, getting her to the hospital was very hard. And, one of the things that was the hardest was we had to tell a story within 6 hours. We'd spoken to, oh no, less than that, sorry, 3 hours. We'd spoken to 6 different
So
medical
many.
healthcare workers.
Yep.
But, here's my but. Now, when I actually wrote my book, I was very angry. And one of our friends who was a doctor read it and he said, hey, you're really angry about this, but can I give you a better scenario? And I said, sure. And he said, you know that game that you used to play as kids and it was called telephone? And it was one, you talk to one, there are 10 of you in a line and you talk, you say the cat sat on the mat and it did a wee.
Yeah.
By the time it gets
Chinese
to the end,
whispers. Mhm.
it's Roger went for lunch with Bill.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Roger the rat.
Yeah.
Sat
Yeah,
down for
Roger
lunch
the
with Bill.
rat. Yes. Yes. So
Yeah.
he explained that by me or Alice or Jessie telling Alice's story from our mouth to their ear
Exactly. Yeah.
bypassed
Mhm.
that. So he said, I hear your pain and frustration and I get it because it is. There's a lot of frustration in hospitals.
Mhm.
But the best person to tell your story or your illness is you. So no matter whether it's mental health, cancer, appendicitis, it is your words coming from your mouth. And
Yeah.
that immediately changed. Would I like to change a whole lot of things? And again, we lucked onto our emergency department having no one in it on that Friday morning.
What?
We walked in, literally, we walked in. There's a little room that when you sit for half an hour, they then take you in to the
Yeah.
room to get your blood pressure and
Yes,
stuff
yes, yeah.
done.
All the vitals.
We
Yeah.
walked straight in, sat down, went into that room, and then they took us into those magic doors into the emergency ward.
Yep.
And that's where we stayed.
Mm.
But we had to tell the story to 6 different people. Now that is frustrating. Are there steps that need to be? Yes. With mental health concerns, we should be telling our story once and then it
Yes.
should be straight into the mental health, the
Yeah.
psychiatrist, or not that we ever saw the big man. We only ever saw the registrar.
Yeah, yeah. Of
But,
course, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think having worked in mental health recovery, I hear your pain and I also it's fine for that doctor's point of view of like it's better to tell it from your mouth, etc. But
Yeah.
it was all right for Alice because she had 2 people with her that could do that. Whereas a
Without
lot of
doubt.
people that are in a psychotic break, even if they can get themselves to a hospital, do not have the capacity or the bandwidth or the ability to advocate for themselves. So, yeah.
Well, if Alice had to speak for herself, she would have said, I'm fine.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
not sure why I'm here
Yes.
because I've been on a holiday and I'm a bit tired.
Mm. Yeah.
And she would have omitted everything else.
Yes, exactly. For people that are listening, when you say having a psychotic episode, can you give people, and I know from my experience, different for every single person, but how would you describe to someone who's listening to this podcast episode and going, I actually don't really know what that means, apart from the Hollywood versions of someone going completely batshit crazy, for want of a better way of saying it. How would you describe a psychotic episode?
Okay, so other than that very first day when we met Alice at the airport,
Mhm.
people having psychosis often look like you and me. They're not running around with a gun or a knife, which is often how we see it portrayed by the media.
Yep,
And
exactly.
for people that have had psychosis, that's a really sad narrative for them to see because
Correct.
that is the extreme end of psychosis or mental health. So psychosis to me means having my loved one that we didn't watch a lot of television because the television was listening to us. We needed to surround ourselves with crystals. When Alice first came home, she wanted to go to the crystal shop. And I was like, oh my God, really? Really? But you know what? And it was something that was going to, she felt could work for her. And the worst thing going to the crystal shop was that the overpowering scent of the
Incense.
the incense burning in the shop. Other
Yep.
than that, I was like, this shop is awesome. And we went to this shop while Alice was psychotic, and she she had a stone and she said, Mum, this is for you. And it was a worry stone. And I thought, how did she know that I was worrying so much? But she knew that was so it psychosis comes with a lot of strangeness and a lot of things that are going in through her mind that we don't see it or hear it unless our loved ones verbalize it to us.
Yes. Yeah.
So often mental health is unseen and unheard because there are no bandages, there's no band-aids, there's nothing to see. So that when we would go to the shops, when I finally got Alice up out of the house and we'd go, it might only be that we could stay up there for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Nobody would know that we would hold hands, and nobody would know. And I think we probably got a few look. Oh yes, yes, we know, but no, they don't know, and they know nothing. Alice couldn't read or write. There were too many. She couldn't listen in the early stages of her psychosis, probably for the first month. She couldn't read or write because her brain was too tired to do that. So she had nothing to do. And it wasn't until later that I thought, my God, her brain is too tired to listen. She could draw in an adult colouring in book for 5 minutes. That was it.
That's it.
Concentration was zero. And then I thought, why didn't I read to her? I could have read magazines or a bit of a book.
Yeah.
But she did say later, she said, Mum, my mind, I don't think could have focused even on what you were reading me, but it's still a thing to ask. And then, so that's what, I don't know whether I've sort of described psychosis from my eyes very well, but that's what it was to us.
Yeah. I think something that in my time in mental health recovery, something that really, because you're right, you're not having the same experience. No one external, even when someone is voicing what is internally happening, you're not experiencing it. It's just like, it's like reading a book about it. It's not like actually having the experience.
Yeah. And nothing makes sense to us because, there's microchip. Alice had a microchip in her that was implanted. And we're like, what? We don't have mental health in our family. What's going on? So we did have to lift up that carpet, and we did have to confront it. I often talk about mental health waltzing into our house, uninvited and unwelcome, and sitting in at the table, at the TV, in our bedroom, in the bathroom. It sat there.
Yeah.
And what we've done is we've actually embraced it now, and we mightn't welcome it all the time, but you have to acknowledge it, and the stigma and silence is what we're trying to break now.
Yeah. When Alice first came home, like you said before, she had another episode. So what was because having been a carer of someone in my family with significant mental health challenges, I know how heavy the responsibility weighs on the carers. And like you said before, like you were so busy just getting her through a day that it was hard to even notice anything else, which is totally understandable. What impact did the recovery for Alice have on your own like health and well-being and also relationships inside of the family?
So when this first happened to Alice, we remained silent, and we didn't just stay silent for a week, a month, a year. It was probably 2 years. There would have been a handful of people in that first year that knew what had
Mhm.
gone on and what had happened. And probably the second year, there were more. There were probably, 20 people that knew.
Yeah.
And so the biggest impact as us on a family was that we were so silent. And the silence was because of the stigma of mental health and the grief that you have, and the wanting to protect your loved one from other people's perceived
Mm.
actions. When we arrived home, Alice had a few good friends, and of those good friends, I'd say 4 stayed and the rest ran very fast. And I was angry for a while, and then I realized that they just don't understand it. Our knowledge of mental health and psychosis and bipolar is scary.
Mhm.
And especially psychosis when somebody is having a psychotic episode,
Mm.
it is scary. And I was so sad that these friends disappeared. And it was the ones that stayed that I didn't think would. Like,
Yeah,
I
it's funny,
thought, oh,
isn't it?
yeah, they're not going to, they haven't known her as long.
Mhm.
They've known her for a couple of years or
Mm.
5 years. And they're amazing and they're still around. And I love them dearly. And
Yeah.
these are the people that had no judgment. They just didn't.
Yeah.
Um, but it was the silence. So it wasn't until this year that I actually spoke with a psychologist. And it
Wow.
was, Alice saying last year, Mum, why don't you go speak to someone? And my then 13-year-old child in 2015, who's
Mhm.
now a strapping 22-year-old 6'4" boy,
My goodness, you
said
read
to
them
me,
tall.
why don't, yeah, yeah, why don't you go speak to someone? That I did. So breaking that silence probably in about 2017, we realized then I had people messaging me and phoning me saying, has this happened to you? It's happened to us. And it was
Mhm.
an acquaintance that would be
Mhm.
be doing that. And I realized that, wow, we've broken the silence and we're doing it. We're we're helping other people. So
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine that was isolating at the time as well that but
absolutely,
I guess in a way having a daughter that's going through a psychotic break is isolating in itself anyway because everything falls away apart from what's right in front of you.
well, all you see is the perfect families out there. And
Mhm.
we know that they're not perfect families. We know it. But my brain would say, even my beautiful sister who knew right from the
Mhm.
word go what we were
Mhm.
going through. And I have 2 brothers that are doctors, married to doctors. So I kept the information limited to them because
Mhm.
they like all the info. I didn't have the information,
Mhm.
but my beautiful sister knew. And
Yeah.
eh, I've lost my track of where I was going
No,
there.
that's okay. We're talking about like the isolation and that I guess your view of the world gets narrowed to where I need to be, which is with Alice, helping Alice, protecting Alice, etc., rather than kind of because where I was going was that very isolating. But I guess by definition, when this happens, you let everything else fall to the wayside because nothing else is more important than what's right in front of you.
Yeah, so I know what it was.
Yeah.
The perfect families.
Yes, that's right. Sorry.
I'd
Yes.
look at my sister and
Mhm.
I'd go, she's got the most 2 beautiful daughters and they're perfect. I, I can't see any, there's no negative. And my friends, I would look at them and they're perfect families. Now, nobody knows what's going behind closed doors. I mean,
Goodness,
people were
no.
probably looking at us going, well, what a perfect family you have.
Yep.
That we were disintegrating and ducks on the outside and
Yeah.
paddling
Yeah.
madly on the inside. So it's it's we must treat everyone like that beautiful lady at a Turk airport with love and kindness, and you
compassion.
never know what's going on in someone's life.
Mhm.
And if we don't ask the questions, we don't get the answer.
Mm.
So if people are worried about someone or worried about their child or their loved one, if you don't ask the right question, you're not going to get the answer.
No,
And
exactly.
"Are you okay?" day is great, but "Are you
One day.
okay?" we all go, like, when I was going through that silence, there was no way I was saying, "No, I'm not okay." There was no way. So we need to be really direct with our answers. And with Alice, um, I will ask. So I will find out her triggers. So her triggers is lack of sleep, which led to the
Mm.
second psychosis in
Gotcha. I
2017,
was going to ask
and
that. Yeah.
stress.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
those were the two things that were the catalyst for that psychosis. And that's when the psychiatrist was able to diagnose bipolar.
Diagnosed bipolar.
Yeah. So often mental health diagnosis doesn't come for years.
And
And
very often not the first,
that's right.
episode.
And
Yeah.
in fact, they were saying that if it was a drug induced psychosis, that would be the best case scenario if she only have ever had
If I had one.
one drug induced. Once you have more, if you are a drug taker or whatever,
Mhm.
then the more, then you're going to have more.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's it. That's the way that it is.
Mhm.
But if Alice um, did not,
Mhm.
then she would have her life would virtually
Yeah.
go back to what it was pre-psychosis.
Mm.
But it wasn't to be, and that's why we don't deal with shoulda, woulda, couldas.
No.
We
No.
we, um, we deal with the moment, and
Yeah.
so if Alice is not feeling great, or I can see, I'll say, "Well, Shane, I don't think she's well today." But it's not that she's not well, it's I ask her. So I ask,
Mm.
"How are you? How's your sleep?
Yeah.
Taking your meds?"
Mhm.
And only a mother can say that, like,
Yeah.
or a carer.
Yeah.
Um, but how are you feeling? Like, is there anything I should know? And I'm very specific with the questions that I ask. And
Yes.
she'll either say, "Oh, haven't had great sleep." So we know, right? Okay. And she's 30 now, and we're still having these conversations,
Yeah.
and they're fine to have.
Mm.
They're fine. Like,
Yeah.
who cares what age you are? Ask me. I'm 60.
Well,
know?
exactly.
It's like, ask me how I am, if I've had enough sleep.
Yep.
Oh, I've had a big weekend. I need
Yeah.
to.
I always laugh because when my kids were younger, I was doing more health and life coaching, and I developed this system for kind of checking in on your self care sort of thing. And we had this. It used to be in the shape of a flower, and each petal was a different thing. And I used to laugh because sometimes I'd be like snappy or something, and they'd be like, "Just come over here." It's just on the fridge. Where? What isn't really that full? And I'd be like, "Shut up!" but
Yeah.
but yeah, my daughters are 19 and 20 now, and yeah, it's a funny family conversation because as soon as I've got one daughter with quite a serious chronic health condition, and yeah, even the other day I was like, "You've got that grey look in your eyes that you get before you have like a and she's like, I don't want to
Yeah.
hear it," but that she's internally got my voice going, what are this, the
Yeah.
sleeping and the stress
Yeah.
relief and the
Yeah.
playing and the connecting with friends and
Yeah.
all those, I don't know,
Knowing
things that
knowing
keep.
triggers is so important. Like, it doesn't matter what, for what. And I think with mental health, we forget that it's chronic illness.
Yes.
We need to treat it. Diabetes, heart disease. My dad's a 93-year-old diabetic.
Mhm.
He's been an insulin-dependent diabetic for 60 years now.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't ask, or now I'd have to say in the last 5 years, we ask whether, what's your BSL, your blood sugar
Yeah.
level?
Yes.
What's your, what's that? Have you remembered to take your injection? Now he is not demented at all. And he just goes, okay, that's what I have to, that's what you want. And he forgets.
Mhm.
So we need to, and people would ask me, oh, does she take her drugs? Does she do this? Sorry, I'm not asking you if your daughter takes her diabetic drugs or her kidney drugs or her heart drugs or whatever.
Wow.
So don't ask that question. People do ask amazing questions like, does she have a job? Alice did teaching English as a second language. She got a communications degree before she went overseas.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she did English as second language after in 2016, so after psychosis.
Mm-hmm.
And she worked till 2020, till COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that
In
then
the
stopped
world.
the students.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
she said, well, I think I would like to do psychology.
Ah.
And so she then did that, then got a full-time job working as an academic advisor and online finished her psychology degree and has just finished her honours degree.
My goodness.
So
It's a lot of study.
mental health is not a full stop. And that on my book, it's Dear Psychosis, comma.
Mm.
And the reason why it's a comma is because mental health is not a full stop. And whether it be that your loved one smiles today, then that's a positive. And we need to move forward, and we need to stop the scary music with mental health. Like we need to change that narrative. And
God.
I
If you
have,
had a magic wand, like if
yeah,
we had a
yeah,
stigma removing
um,
magic wand, what is the shit that you would like just delete off the planet? Because I feel like without us calling out the specific judgment and stigma
yeah,
and Hollywood informed bullshit about
yeah,
mental health disorders and imbalances, whatever. Um, if we're not calling it out, the people that have it in the back of their head, it's kind of like that latent racism
yeah.
that people don't actually, they wouldn't identify as a racist, but they still have these thoughts. What would you delete from the world with a magic wand that could,
So Sane have a stigma watch.
ooh, I love it.
And I would love if I had the magic wand
Mm.
and it is in the media that I would
Mhm.
wave it at. And
Yeah.
it would be the use of words, oh, they were crazy today, or
Oh,
they
yes.
lost the plot. I mean, maybe not lost the plot, but they use words when they're talking about athletes that have clearly had a mental health episode, but they will not use mental health, or they won't use a specific word. They'll use crazy or they're nuts, they lost it. And I think, no, let's use the word. And so on this stigma watch, you can then let's say no, and they contact the journalist
Ah,
and say, hey, listen. So it's changing the narrative, and I think we
yes.
all need to change the narrative.
Mm.
Um, that would be, and my big wand would be, for me, it would be exactly that. There is no full stop after mental health. Can we please not think that someone's life is over because they've had a mental health episode?
Mhm.
It is distressing and it will always be distressing. And we've clearly broken the silence in the biggest possible way, but
I love it.
but, I'm so grateful for that because we've had so many people contact us in saying thank you that they either grew up with parents and they weren't allowed to talk about it because they'd go to school and clearly the nuns knew or the teachers knew,
That
and
was
the
mine.
parents had said, we don't talk about it, but Susie's mother's not well or her brother's not well, but we don't talk about it in the home. And they've never talked about it in 40 years.
Mhm.
And yet they contact Alice and I and say, thank you. We now, and this is our story. And we go, well, thank you so much. And sharing that with us.
Yeah.
And it is so important to talk about it. And if you can't talk about it, maybe write it down. Like just write it, then throw it in the fireplace or throw it in the bin or whatever.
Yeah. Exactly. I want to add some things to your stigma list because these are the
Yeah.
things that used to shit me in mental
Yeah, I
health
love it.
recovery. Mental health, imbalance, illness, like whatever language that we're using, A, has no reflection on someone's intelligence. B, has no reflection on someone's control. Like
Yeah.
it's avoidable if you just try harder.
Oh, yeah. Go out and walk outside. You'll
Oh,
feel
so
better.
anyway,
That one is a big one.
the does not mean it's a character flaw or something that someone decided to switch on or switch off in themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Um, D, I feel like there is a real lack of understanding that, and Maggie, who we are just talking about, the author of Split, perfect example. Often mental health, not always, but sometimes mental health disorders actually are created by a brain who is seeking protection from ongoing serious trauma. And so it is actually an amazing adaptive ability for your
Yeah.
brain to
Yeah.
lock away parts of you so that you cannot be destroyed by what's going on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think that people don't understand that. Um,
We certainly need more education. We so need more
Oh,
education.
and that's the other thing. Like, okay, let's talk about how would you change the nursing slash medical slash mental health system if you had a magic wand? Wow,
Well,
these are big questions, Sarah.
I'd
All
love
before lunchtime.
I'd love to tell you this story.
Yes, please do.
So, since 2015, I've done a few courses, and now that I'm a Sane Care Ambassador, they often have lectures to go to, and now I'm a peer care worker.
Yeah.
I now go to a lot of webinars.
Hmm.
So I was speaking to someone who is a mental health worker, and I said to them, I've been to this great talk, and it's called Talk. So it's for suicide awareness,
Hmm.
and it is saying the words and being honest and out loud and approaching people
Hmm.
in saying, how are you today? You don't look great. And,
Yes.
getting the conversation going.
Mhm.
And if they talked about suicide, which we say the words and we ask the words,
Mm.
and was saying this to this
Mhm.
person, and I said, I think we should get this talk here. I think that all the managers should
Yes.
have the work and elsewhere. And they looked at me and they said, if we do that, we have to do something about it. And I don't have the time. And I think that is, and sadly, I think that is the way of a lot of people, that work is busy. I've got a deadline and I can't afford to ask you the proper question. And oh my gosh, you're not feeling well? I don't have time for that. So that would be the narrative we need to change. And we need people like me, like you, to break that silence and go into workplaces. But you mentioned the word mental health, and people they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. And that's why I'm so grateful, Kylie, for you having me on and to hear and to break that silence,
Yeah.
because carers don't break the silence.
Yeah.
That's where the stigma is. They're not going to out their loved one for having mental health.
Yeah.
And that's why mental health is so silent.
It stays in the shadows and it's
They stay in the
stigmatized.
shadows.
But
'Cause
also,
it's scary out there in the world.
yeah.
Yeah.
And worse for carers. I mean, caring for someone with any ongoing chronic illness can be an incredibly huge load. And then there's a whole other
Absolutely.
level with psychosocial, and I'm using NDIS terminology
Yes.
now because under NDIS, which is the framework that I used to work in,
Mm.
mental health disorders were called psychosocial disorders, which I think is a misnomer. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation. There is so much stigma and isolation, and so that actually makes the reality for carers of people that have significant mental health issues, particularly when they're in crisis, just debilitating. And so we break the carers, then we break the one tiny level of support that some people have because
Yes.
they will not or cannot access, other whatever.
No.
Particularly
And
where I used to work, it's regional area, so there's not as many services
that's it.
available. Mm.
And taking time off work, people will say I'm sick. They won't say I'm when Alice first came home, there was about 3 months where I didn't work, and I was so fortunate that I was working at 2 hospitals at that time, and I was able to take that time off and say, and the bosses of both knew, and in one, I worked for a particular doctor, so that team knew.
Yeah.
So that
Yep. Yep.
when I went back to work, I actually I had an anaesthetist, a doctor, and an anaesthetic nurse and another nurse
Yeah.
who all knew what was going on in my little world.
Yes.
And I had my sister that
Mm-hmm.
knew, but I was able to just go blur. And there were days when I'd go to work and I'd get worried, and then I'd text my husband, like,
Yes.
and,
Yeah.
I'd go, one of us needs to go home,
Mm-hmm.
and we would.
Yeah.
And I'd say to work, is there anyone to fill in for me? Or Shane would go work from home.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's the thing. It's silent. I was able to tell because I work as a nurse.
Yeah.
I felt like, and all this was done under the cone of silence.
Yeah, of course.
And it would be,
yeah.
I'd start every conversation with, this is the cone of silence. You cannot tell anybody. And that's the way I talked for 2 years to friends. After that first year,
Mm-hmm.
it would be, this is the cone of silence. You cannot share this with anyone.
Yeah.
I was so scared that it would get out.
Now that because we haven't even touched the fact that you've written a book, and I know you've mentioned it a couple of times, so I want to get to the process of writing the book, but now that you have had the experience of not being silent and having people share their stories with you and everything, and I know this is a stupid question because it's like hypothetical and who knows, but if you could go back and decide to be silent or not, do you think that you'd make the same choice?
I probably think I would,
Yeah.
because Alice had to say herself that she was ready to share.
Yeah.
And until that moment, and that she was ready to, and look, she was always pretty good with her friends. It was then to a wider
Yes.
community that we were then going. So that little ball became bigger, but then it was like, okay, are we doing this now? Are you happy for me to actually start talking and saying to my other work colleagues, are you happy for that? And she said, yeah, happy.
So how long before you actually wrote the book and it was published that did you always know you wanted to write a book? Like what was no.
No, I'm a nurse. I'm a touchy-feely. I give great hugs, and I care for you so well when you're sick.
Yeah.
But put me on a computer and, oh my God, tap with one finger, and writing a book was never. But what I realized was that I'd written a lot of notes, and it had become cathartic, but not notes. I'd just written stuff. I've never been a diary writer, so I'd just written stuff. And I realized that what I had would make a great anonymous article. But it was actually too much for an anonymous article. Then it could be a book. And I had asked Alice in about 2016 to see if she could write. If you can write what you've been through, it might help you. So I'd asked her to do that, and she'd been able to, which is amazing in itself. And then I asked Jesse if he could write about that week that he was with us in Istanbul, or that week that he was with us in Istanbul and then back here in Australia. And he said, yeah, sure, okay. And then I realized I had this book, and I probably asked Alice 99 times, are you okay?
Are you
But
sure
the
you're
moment
sure?
I press send, it's out in the world, and we can never come back from that.
No.
Once it's out, it's out. And the 100th time I asked, she said, can you stop asking me? I'm happy to break the silence.
Yeah.
Let's do it. And then that's when the book, I'd already had 500 copies of the book sitting in my study, ready.
Oh, really?
I was waiting. I had to ask that one last time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we pressed send onto social,
Yes.
the
Of
Amazon
the
and
selling
blah,
one. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
on my website and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And that was scary because then it was out.
It is scary.
Yeah.
Did you find, and it sounds like you already kind of alluded to this, the writing of the story was cathartic
Oh,
because I imagine I have a dear friend of mine who's writing a story that's her own journey, and she's
yeah.
found the writing process cathartic because you realize what you've gone through,
Yeah.
and you have those moments of like, oh my God, looking back with a different lens, because obviously you're, X amount of years in the future and you can look
Yeah.
back in hindsight, as you said before.
Yes.
Um, how important was that for you? Because I know you just said like you started to see a psychologist, but I imagine from a processing perspective that was helpful as well for you.
Oh, was amazing and definitely cathartic
Mhm.
and needed. And when we went through this in 2015, and we asked the nursing staff, what is there out for the carers? What's there
Mhm.
for us, our family?
Mm.
They had no solution for us.
Nope.
So I then went looking for a book. There has to be a book out there. There has to be something that somebody else has written. And I was desperate.
Mhm.
So I couldn't find one. I could find um I could find
Textbooks.
um uh, celebrities, but their life was completely different to my mundane
Yeah,
life. I
totally
don't have
untouchable.
I don't have millions of dollars. I don't have that. And is your story? And then I read it, and it'd be like, oh, they want me to buy this other thing, or they want me to do this, or they're direct. Like
Yeah.
there was nothing out there. And I thought, if we publish, or when we publish this book, if one person reads it, then it'll be an amazing thing.
Mhm.
It it will be it will be awesome. And one person just didn't read it, so that was good. A lot did.
I know you said before we started recording that you've
Oh,
sold almost 2,000 copies. And I would say a huge part of that is that, like all the other people that have, got in contact with you, you're actually shining a light on something that most people would go through and never, ever speak up about,
well,
never, ever share.
the sad thing is that when, like, we were told we'd only sell 250 copies, and it's because I wasn't,
A celebrity or
a
a.
social media sensation, and I
Mhm.
wasn't famous.
Mhm.
And that made me really sad, and I had to get over that, because I nearly then went, "Well, I'm not gonna publish this book. I'm just gonna throw it in the bottom of my drawer, never to
Mhm.
be read."
Mhm.
And then I got a little bit angry, and I thought, "No, we are someone. We deserve to be heard."
Mm.
And I'm not the only one with this story.
No.
There are many others with a same but different,
Mhm.
and their story might be better, their story might be worse, but the
Mhm.
story is the same, that we're all looking for something. We're looking for one piece of information that we can grasp onto, and
Yeah.
perhaps that's our smile for the day.
Yeah.
And that's what we need.
Yeah. I want to read the whole title and subtitle because I
Uh,
love the way that you've wrapped exactly what you just said. So the book is called Dear Psychosis, a story of hope and life through a family's journey of mental health. I think that just wraps it up so beautifully because the way that you share your story, you have shared the difficulty and also the hope and the moving forward. Can you tell us, final question, come back to what you were going to say about feeling as if Alice is your hero? Because you
oh,
mentioned that
yeah,
before.
yeah. So when when the grief and the guilt is all consuming,
Yes.
the despair of the unknown, will she ever work again?
Hmm.
Will she have friends? Will she
Will
ever
she
live
be
out
able
of
to?
home?
Yeah.
Will
Yeah.
she have a relationship again?
Mhm.
And mental health or chronic illness, it's not one umbrella or one size fits all.
No.
She's gone on to work full time. She has finished her psychology degree, finished her honours degree, and there's more things to come for her.
Yeah.
She's had relationships. Have they worked out? No, but you know what? Gee, you've got to love the moment that you're in. And
Yeah, exactly.
so, and she's lived out of home. She's moved back in because she's been doing her honours year.
Yeah, yeah.
It makes it a little bit easier. And she is my hero to achieve all of this. On the alternative, though, if she'd been able to achieve a few things post-psychosis and that's all she'd been able to do, she would still be my hero.
Yeah.
Life would be a bit difficult and not the same as we know it now. And life still isn't rosy. We go through depression and anxiety in this house still. And it's knowing triggers, asking the questions. And if you need time out as a carer or a loved one, take it.
Take it.
Please take it.
Take it.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah.
So important. Because carers burnout is absolutely a thing.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much where most carers that I came across with psychosocial, with people in their family with psychosocial, significant psychosocial, like the schizophrenia and bipolar and dissociative. It's normalized with carers with mental health, and I think that we need to unnormalize it. Carers burnout should not be where the baseline is.
That's right.
The baseline
continuing, it continues on every day. There is no coming home from work. There is no leaving to go to work.
Often you go to work for the respite, right?
Respite. Yep. And then I'd come home and then I'd be like this. When someone puts a hand over their face and they go smile and then they bring it up and it's just grumpy, I would walk in the door and go, smile. Because you don't know what's waiting for you inside your house or the hospital room when you go to visit.
Yeah. Oh, you've been a blessing. Thank you so much for sharing your story so beautifully. And sharing. Thank you to Alice for being okay with you sharing.
Yeah.
Because I know that would have been.
Thank you very much for having me. I've loved it.
No worries at all. What do you think Alice would say to someone? What would she want someone listening to this to take away about this conversation?
I think that she would like you to know that scary music does not accompany mental health. I did mention it earlier, but that's her saying.
Yeah.
Don't put scary music with mental health because it's the minority, the minority of the minority that is.
Yeah.
And I think what you said earlier, that mental health is so much more. There is a person behind it that can hold down a full-time job, that can have a great discussion with you. But on the flip side, there's also people that can't do that. And that if they can get out of bed that day, then that's amazing. If an achievement is having a shower. So normalizing the extremes and the lows of mental health is, I think, what she would say.
Yeah. Oh, such a good way of tying things together. Thank you so much, Sarah, for your time and your wisdom. And we'll put this in the show notes, but Sarah's website is Sarah Martin Author. So Sarah has a H at the end, Martin as it sounds, author.com. And there is links to how to get a copy of the book through Sarah as well. So thank you for being here.
Aww, one. Big hugs to you.
Thanks for tuning in to Wild and Finally Fucking Free. I'm Kylie, your host. And given that I know you would have enjoyed this episode, please do us a favor and subscribe, leave a review, and share it with fellow freedom seekers. Remember, being seen in all our mess and magic helps heal ourselves and the world. Because the world needs more wild and finally fucking free humans. Have a great day.